The expert in anything was once a beginner. Good evening to one and all. We welcome each one of you to this evening session on the importance of internships and technical publication to future ventures, presented by Signal Processing Society of IEEE MBCET SB. Firstly, I would like to call upon Sheetal to deliver the welcome speech. Sheetal.
Foremost, it's my privilege to welcome the most inspiring person of MBCT, Barsar Achin, to this gathering. Welcome, Achin. It's my pleasure to welcome Vice Principal MBCT, Professor S. Vishwanatha Rao sir, to this webinar. If you can't figure out your purpose, figure out your passion. For your passion will lead you right into your purpose. We have three guest speakers for today's event who are our alumni. Mr. Royce Thomas Ipe, software engineer, emerging services IoT at UST, will speak to us on the topic, importance of internships leading to placements. I extend a warm welcome to Mr. Royce. Mrs. Gayatri Pradeep Karta, executive at MediaTek, will speak to us on the topic, importance of doing a good project. I extend a hearty welcome to Ms. Gayatri. Mr. Aditya Raj is currently pursuing his master's in International Human Resources Management at University of Aberdeen, Scotland. He is also the owner of a startup and co-founder of Atom Drugs Specialty Medicines Management Pan India. He will speak to us about importance of good publication. I extend a warm welcome to Mr. Aditya. I gladly welcome HOD EC Department, Mrs. Jayakumari ma'am, IQAC Coordinator MBCT and Student Activity Chair EMPS Kerala, Mrs. Jayasree ma'am, Mrs. Deepa ma'am, other faculty members and all the participants to this session. Now I request Mr. Royce Thomas Ipe to address the gathering. Let's wait for a few minutes.
Hi all, can you hear me?
Yes, Royce.
Yes, Chetan.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. So I'll share my screen now. Let me know once you can see it. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So hi all, good evening and thanks for joining. So before we get into the session, a little bit of background about me. So currently I'm working as a software engineer at UST with their IoT team. We mainly focus on building end-to-end IoT solutions for retail clients and automotive and also the mobility domain. So talking about my education, as I mentioned, I did my bachelor's in electronics and communication engineering from Mar Baselius College of Engineering and Technology. And after my third year, I got an internship offer from UST, and later they absorbed into their IoT team. So before getting into the session, I'll give a brief outline about all the topics that we will cover today. So starting off, I'll explain why internships are important and how it can boost your career and your job market value. Then I'll give my insights on the right time to do an internship and also the different ways in which you can land a good internship. And finally, I'll give some tips and advice from my personal experience. And I want to add one more point. So whenever I say internship, I'm not referring to those 1 week internship offered by organizations like Eltron and CDAC, for which you have to pay money to do their work and they'll give a certificate. So I'm not talking about that. So I'm talking about internships that are at least a month long. Because I truly believe that in 1 or 2 weeks, nobody will be able to attain any value from them. So with that being said, let's start the session. Okay, so why are internship important? So it's a perfect segue into a job. So in my opinion, doing an internship is the best possible way to land a job in that company. No resume or CV or portfolio or interview can give a better picture about you than an internship. So I urge all of you to take advantage of this opportunity. And I'll talk about these all the various sections in the coming sections. So next one is figure out what you like and don't like. So as I said, internship is the best way for the company to analyze your skills and abilities. But if you look at it from another perspective, the opposite is also true. So doing an internship with a company is the best way for also you to decide if this is what you want to do for the rest of your life. So this is a free opportunity for you also to test if what you like doing by doing different internships. So if you are confused about what you want to do or what field you want to get in, internships are the best way to test that. So what you can do is you can go for multiple internships. So if you're confused between if you want to work in a startup or if you want to work in an MNC, what you can do is you can try to get internships in both environments. So you can get a better picture about what everything is. And also, if you don't like it, you can just walk out and no one will ask you a question because it's just an internship. And if you like it, you should try to convert that into a full-time employment. So the next point is learn how a professional workplace operates and how to work in a team. So while doing an internship, you will get to know the company culture, the company hierarchy, and all the corporate ladder, and also all the roles that are there in the company or in that particular team. And you will also be able to get a good opportunity to judge which all are the best teams in that company. And professional mindset is an entirely different thing from a college mindset. So this is another very important advantage that you get from an internship. So I have come across a lot of articles and blog posts by freshers and mainly junior engineers complaining about the workload and work-life balance and being burnt out and all that stuff. So in my opinion, internship is that perfect opportunity to transition from a college student mindset to a professional mindset. I get that while in college, all of us are in our comfort zones. We have our friends around for everything. But once you graduate and enter a job, the things are completely different. So while studying itself, if you do an internship, you will get a more advantage after you complete your studies and join a company. And coming to the next point, you will get to experience how professionals solve a problem. So in every company, when a new project comes, or even if there's a problem that the team is stuck in, we call for a brainstorming session. So from my personal experience, these brainstorming sessions are the best thing that you experience in an internship. So because you'll get to experience how the professionals in the field come up with solutions to the problems. So this is another great advantage that you get to experience by doing an internship. Now, the other point is you'll get to gain a lot of professional feedback. One thing I have to mention is that during an internship, nobody will teach you how to code, or nobody will spoon feed you to do stuff. But what they do is they know how to guide you. So as a fresher, our only aim will be to make things work. While that is a good thing, but there are other parts also to being a good software engineer. So whenever you write a piece of code, you should always write it with the mindset that someone in the future will work on this project and they should be able to understand the code easily. So these senior engineers and managers will be able to give you valuable feedback that can help you to achieve this goal. So this is also an major advantage of doing an internship. So, and the last part is you get to create connections in the industry. This is a huge advantage in your future also, in all your job opportunities in the future. So all the people that you work with while doing your internships are your potential leads to a new job offer in the future. So I would suggest all of you to make good contacts with all the senior engineers and managers you work with. For example, recently, I think last year, we had a new project and we had a huge requirement of about 10 Android developers. So what the managers did is that first they didn't put the job offer in any job portals or something, or in our career website. But what they did is they first asked the team members if we know anybody who is good at Android development, and if we know anybody, we'll give them an interview. So that's what I tell. That's what I told. So this doing an internship and keeping those connections in the industry is a great opportunity for you for future job opportunities. Okay, so coming to the second part, what's the right time to do an internship? So there are three main points in your studies when you can do internships. That is after second year, after your third year, or after graduation. If you ask me about internships after the first year, I would say that's not that useful, because after first year you won't even know what your subject is. We only learn about the basics of all the engineering fields, and so doing an internship just after first year won't be that useful, because you won't even understand what your subject is. So I suggest all of you to do an internship after your first year. So like I said earlier, if you're unsure about your field or which path you want to take up, I would suggest you to do multiple internships. So after your second year, do a first internship in a field which you are doubtful about. And also after third year also try to get another internship, which is an entirely different environment. So in this way, you can test which field you want to follow. So this is a great opportunity. And my personal opinion will be try to do an internship after your third year. Because after third year, you will be really thorough with what your subject is and what your weakness and what you're good at. You will be able to identify those things. And doing an internship after that will be really helpful. And also after graduation is also a time when you can do an internship. So if you haven't got any job opportunities or offer letters, uh, don't just sit idle waiting for a new job opportunity. Try to get internships, and I'm sure you will be able to convert those internships into full-time employment. So coming to the next part, how to get good internships. So like I said, uh, getting a good internship, the best way to get a good internship is to reach out to your school or college alumni, or even reach out to your relatives or family friends. For example, I had a friend who just got a job offer that he was referred by his college school senior. So this is possible, and this is a really great way to get a job opportunity. The second one is LinkedIn or career websites. So this is the straightforward way of searching for an internship. You can go to LinkedIn and search for internship jobs, uh, and also the company which you want to work for. And also you can go to the career website. But the problem is the chances of you getting an internship will be less. And also there's a major thing that most companies won't list internships in their career website, and also in LinkedIn also. So what you can do is you have to reach out to them. That's the way to get an internship. It won't be listed in the company website. So keep that in mind. And the last way is to cold email. So cold email means sending a mail or message to a person who you don't know. So what you can do is go to LinkedIn or any job portal and search for hiring managers at the company you want to work. Or you can also search for technical architects or technical lead and just message them. And also cold emailing is another sector which needs a huge explanation. So I'm not going into the depth of it. So don't just uh, send a mail with the subject, I want looking for an internship opportunity. Make it somewhat attractive. Okay, so coming to the last part, some tips and advice from my personal experience. So like I was stressing about this point. So don't do it for the certificate. I can't stress enough on this point. So please don't do it for the certificate, because nowadays certificates, companies don't care about certificates. They only look for the skills. So please never do an internship for a certificate. And also avoid paid internship. Like I said, you shouldn't be paying them money to work for them. So this is also a sign, is this is also a red flag that you should look for while looking for an internship. And coming to the third point, try to do it individually. So I know this will be hard because you have all your friends with you and you will be in your comfort zone. So, but I would suggest to try to do it individually, because when you go as a group of like 5 or 10 people, first of all, the company will find it difficult to handle all of you. And also, you will be in a different mindset. Like you will be going there to just enjoy, but that is not our intention is. So I highly suggest that you should do it individually, or at least maximum 2 people, not more than that. And this is also one important thing, because if you want to convert your internship into a job, please don't go as a group, because then there will be competition between you guys, because the company won't be able to give a job opportunity to 5 or 10 people, but they might be able to give one job opportunity. So if you are in a group, then they will also not give it to you also. So keep that in mind. And next point is show genuine interest. So these senior managers and all the technical leads can easily find out if you are genuine in what you're doing, and if you are really interested in this job opportunity or internship. So please try to be as genuine as possible and show that you really want to work on this type of tech. And next one is ask for code reviews from senior engineers. So, like I said, you should always keep in mind that the code that you're working on should be readable for a future developer to understand easily. So, if you are in an internship and no one is reviewing your code, please just ask for code reviews. This is a great way to improve your coding standards and also to learn about different ways you can do efficient write the code efficiently. So please do ask for code reviews, especially from senior engineers. Now the next point is ask for help and observe how they fix the issue. So don't ask for help every time. Try your maximum to solve the issue by yourself, and still if you're stuck, then only ask for help. And once you ask for help and some senior engineer comes and helps you, please observe it how they are fixing the issue, and if you want you can take notes also. So the next time when this issue occurs, you should try to refer back to that notes and try to fix it on yourself. This is the best way that you can learn a new skill. So this is the last opportunity to increase your professional market value. So if you messed up your 12th standard, you messed up your entrance, and also if you didn't score well in your bachelor's, then doing an internship is the last opportunity to improve your chances of getting a job. So like I said, marks do matter, but if you have low marks, then doing an internship, good internship, will really increase your market value. And finally, try to get LinkedIn endorsements and recommendations. So this will help you a lot in your future and in your career. So try to make as many connections in the industry, and also try to get as many endorsements and recommendations from experienced professionals. So while you are applying in future, while you are applying for a new job, recruiters will go through your LinkedIn profile, and they will see these endorsements and recommendations, and which will greatly improve your chances. So that's it. Thank you. And I hope this short session helped you in some way. So all the best to you, all of you, for your internship journey and also to your career in the tech industry. Thank you all. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, or you can mail me. So yeah, once again, thanks.
Guys, if you have any queries, you can post it in the chat box or you can unmute and ask. Any queries? Thank you so much, Rohit Cheta, for sharing your experience and guiding us in spite of your busy schedule. Thank you, Cheta, so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks.
Next, I would like to call upon Gayatri Chechi for her session.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. First of all, sorry because I wouldn't be able to present anything since my personal laptop is my company laptop because of the pandemic situation and all. So I'm not allowed to present, but we'll try to make this more into a friendly discussion. As you all know, the topic is based on the importance of doing a project and what are the opportunities. So we'll be basically discussing on what are the opportunities that you guys will be getting on doing a good project, and the different categories of projects that you can focus on, then the certain key points that you have to note when you're doing a project or when you're approaching a project. Then how do you develop your skill sets from the project? And I can give you small tips based on building a strong resume with the help of your skill sets that you have developed, and the industry opportunities definitely. And yeah, so these would be the points that we would be covering. So these are all like simple, basic fundamental things that we can do it. It is not a rocket science. These are really simple things which you can just brush up, and then out there you are in your career or core field according to your choice. So starting up with the first one, it's like the opportunities basically that you get by doing a good project. So guys, first of all, I would like to say that please, by just saying this term project, don't think it is just restricted to your curriculum. You have projects outside your curriculum also. You can do that also. And the projects which you're doing in your curriculum, very good, but make sure that you are just not doing the project just to get your CGPA. Okay, this is a general thing that we all, even I have gone through it. It's a misconception that you just do your project, somehow you get the output, and you get your CGPA, and that is needed for for your further interviews or getting shortlisted. To be frank, CGPA is required. I'm not saying that it's not required, but at the same time, just doing the project for the courtesy of getting CGPA is really not going to work out for you guys to, come out into the core industry, or at least getting an internship. So you have to concentrate into many other elements also. So first, we'll be discussing more on it. And yeah, give me a second. Okay, so the first opportunity, like I would just give you a rough idea on what are the opportunities you guys have by doing a good project. The first thing is just the previous topic which Royce had mentioned. It's about the internship opportunities, and thank you, Royce, for giving a wonderful, discussion on it. Lots of information for these kids around here. And yeah, so that is one big thing that you'll be getting. That is your internship opportunities. The second one, getting into a core field, like the career. If if you have a option to get into the core field on whatever field currently you are doing in your bachelor's, so working into the industry, it's really good. You get a really a high career growth over there. And other things, by doing a good project, you can actually get your resume shortlisted, at least for internships or for direct job placements and all. And somewhere a strong project can also help you to crack the interview questions. Like if your project is too strong, there are high chances that the person who is interviewing you, he can actually concentrate on the project if he is really impressed by the project which you have done, and the skill set that you have developed out of the project which you have done. He'll be concentrating more on it. He'll be interested to know more about it. And you can actually skip some kind of technical questions where generally you guys will be put under pressure for all the technical questions. And also, that is just a small tip from my side. And yeah, so we'll just deep dive into the topic. And there is one more perspective other than the core field and the career. The one more perspective of doing a good job is people among you will be having a choice to or a plan to go abroad for higher education, maybe, or maybe do your masters in IITs or IISCs, college like that. And suppose you do your gate exam, and your rank list is not according to the IIT level or IISc level. For people like that, your project, it actually works. You can directly apply for these institutes and you can nail it off if your project is really strong, because there would be an interview session like that, and the faculties over there, they look onto the project which you have worked, the skill set that you have developed from it, and all those technical things which is there in your resume. It can resemble you, and you can actually crack it into an IIT or an IISc. So these are the just perspectives which I'm giving, and let's deep dive into the topic. So moving on to the different kinds of projects. So some of you guys might have done your mini project in your bachelor's time, or you might be doing mini project, or you might be doing your main projects. So this is basically based on your curriculum. Like from your bachelor's, you'll be doing certain kind of projects. That's well and good. And other than this, you have different opportunities to do project, maybe by participating into a hackathon or a makeathon, doing things like that, and getting a project over there. The other opportunity that you have is based on the sponsored projects. Maybe the college can sponsor if you have an idea, and you can have a discussion with the department, and if they feel like, okay, yes, you can pull it off, and then you get sponsored over there. So you have one more opportunity called the sponsored projects. Now there is one more thing called the industry sponsored projects also. So this is another kind of type of project which you can include in your resumes. And some set of projects is like, maybe you can just do it by yourself. Some basic projects, like if you want to learn a new skill set, when you're looking into a company's career page, you're seeing the job description, and then you feel like, okay, these are certain coding skills which you can develop all by yourself, just taking the theoretical class and then doing something practical on it, and with the help of an open source compiler if available. And these kind of things are also a part of different kinds categories of projects which you have. So don't just always restrict yourself to the curriculum based project. Give importance to it, because that is really needed. At the same time, also focus, try to get opportunities outside your curriculum also. If you get a project sponsored, or internships industry sponsored, or some competition kind hackathon or hackathon, so try to participate in these things also. Because at the end of the day, whatever project you are doing, whether irrespective of of the category, whether it is from your curriculum, or whether it is from sponsorship or something else from the competition, the thing that you develop from the project is actually the practical knowledge. And industry people right now, they don't want any of them who are having all the theoretical knowledge and all the theoretical skills. Okay, that is good. I'm not saying that it is not needed. It is needed. But definitely when you're comparing the industry standards, they want candidates who are having a hands-on, or who have more practical knowledge on whatever projects they have done, and what are the skill sets, or let it be a software, let it be a hardware, or let it be a coding language, whatever it is. They want that candidate to have a practical knowledge on it rather than the theoretical knowledge, because theoretical knowledge is something that we all can build up. Like, you just have to Google, or you just get certain Coursera courses, and you can do the courses over there. But that is just developing your theoretical knowledge. That is nothing related to the practical side. If you want to actually develop the skill, really do your hands-on, because that is required, and do a practical project on it. Let it be even if it is a small project. Okay, it gives an importance over there. Because for industries, generally what they do is, CGPA is definitely a criteria. But people, if you guys are having a lower CGPA, please don't feel bad about it. It's not an issue. You guys can focus on your project side more, and try to get a more CGPA. Or if your project is really strong, CGPA doesn't matter in certain cases, for certain companies, industries, when you're considering. So you don't have to worry about it. So the first category, definitely you have to work on your CGPA. And the other thing that the industry people are more looking onto is how much knowledge that particular candidate has. What are the project which he or she has done, and from that project, what are the skill set that he or she has developed. So that can actually, if you have done a particular project, and from the project you have got an idea on so and so softwares, knowledge on practical knowledge on so and so coding languages, or practical knowledge on certain hardwares that you have used in the project. So these things can actually make you stand you out of the crowd. And this is really important. Right now the competition is really high when you pass like your graduation, you complete your graduation, and when you come out, the competition is on a higher space. I do agree, and you guys can have certain pressure also. But how can you just stand out of the crowd is by doing these basic fundamental things. And if you follow those things properly, then definitely you'll stand out of the crowd, and you don't have to worry about it. Things will fall in the right place. And yeah, so moving on, we have this. Yeah, so I was discussing on the different categories of project, and focusing on a project, and how do you develop the skill from the project. And yeah, moving on to the curriculum based, or like whatever project if you're doing on your curriculum or outside the curriculum, you just have to first find your field of interest, and do a proper research on it, get to know whether it is relevant when it comes to the industry standards. And once you decide a topic, try to bring the novelty in that topic, and try to implement what are the methods, or what are the things that you have to implement those novelty. If you want to implement those novelties, what are the things that you have to gather. And from that topic, what are the software kind of directions, or software kind of practical knowledge which you will have, what are the coding skills that you develop, what are the hardware based skills that you are going to develop from the project. Always have a roadmap on it, because if you are clear with this roadmap, these things are something which you are going to directly put into your resume, and that will be one important factor for you to get shortlisted for an internship, or maybe for a placement into the core fields. So I have been I am a product of Mount Basilius College of Engineering, and after that I did my masters, and then I got an internship opportunity at Intel, and I was in the AIPG verification side. So I come from a EC background. But irrespective of that, I would like to say that people also have this kind of misconception, like if you want to get a career in these core fields, like companies like Intel or MediaTek, or Global Foundries, or like Cisco, or any mechanical based or civil, whatever company you guys have in your mind. So it's not necessary that you need a master's. If your project is really strong, they can actually absorb you. And trust me, I have done my internship in Intel, and right now I'm working in MediaTek. In these companies, I find many BTech graduates. They have completed their BTech, and through their projects, and through their strong resume, through their skill set, they have got internships for 6 months, or maybe for 1 year. And generally they give a 6-month internship, and if they feel like the candidate is fit enough, they try to extend that internship for another 6 months, so that you get a flow on the industry, how the company works, or what is the industry standards. You get a idea on it. And once you just do that, you are getting converted, you will be absorbed, that is for sure. So it's not necessary that you need a master's, because there are many people who have completed their bachelor's and they are out there in the industry, and I have many friends who have done that also. So please do concentrate on the fundamental things, which is the project. Just to sum up, I'm saying all these things again, like concentrate on the field of interest, whether it is relevant or not, what are the software, hardware, coding skill set that you can develop from it. And like once you're doing a project, just suppose if you are getting to learn a particular tool, just don't stick to know about the tool just for your project's sake. Try to advance that also, like you can just take your learning into the advanced level also, and especially in the practical side, not into the theoretical concepts. Always focus on that, because that is something which is really needed into the industry. So this is about like how you get to develop your skill sets from the project, and concentrating more on it, or more on the practical side, and getting all those things into your resume. And then yes, you can get shortlisted for sure. The other thing which I would like to mention is like for some people, if you are, you didn't have any competition or you didn't participate in any hackathon or hackathon, or, you have just done your curriculum based project, your mini project, your main project, that's it. There are different opportunities for you guys also. And one of the good platform that you have is LinkedIn, because right now, in the middle of this pandemic, everything is going like digital and online. So just create a proper LinkedIn profile, upload your resume over there, try to upload your skills over there, and keep on searching all the career pages of the core companies which especially you want to set a goal, like you want to be there. So keep on searching their company pages, try to get what are the job opportunities they have. And if you have a job description, just try to go on in that job description, try to analyze whether your skills are matching with those skills. And if it is not matching, what is the new skill which you can develop? Is it something which is available in the open source or open source compiler? If yes, try to do it. Get a theoretical knowledge and do a practical thing over there. Try to do a project. So those are the projects which I was mentioning in the first part, like small projects where you can develop by yourself. So just going through the job description of these career pages, and getting an idea of what are the skill set that you need to develop, and concentrating on that is one thing which you can do. And LinkedIn is also a platform where nowadays people are they are providing project ideas over there, and they want candidates to take an initiative to do the project from their hand. So it can be a sponsored one, or maybe it is not the sponsored one. So it is up to you guys. If you get an opportunity, please try to take all those opportunities. If you are getting an initiative to start a project, or do a project, whether it is coming through a LinkedIn profile or whatever it is, just try to understand if that is your field of interest. If it is your field of interest, try to communicate with them, connect with them, and try to develop your skill set in that way also. Because all these things, at the end of the day, it is really going to put you into a bright future, especially when you want to get into a core field. So that really does matter. And talking about other opportunities, like I said, internship is one big opportunity that you guys will be given right now. And once you do your internship, it's not necessary that you should be into that creamy level person who should know everything, whatever tools you have mentioned in your resume. It's not necessary that you know about the tool 100%. When the interviewer is interviewing you, he'll be just checking on whether the candidate's basic or the foundation is really strong. The project he has done, or the project she has done, from that he or she has generated or developed this so and so skill set. And from that skill set, how much deep dive have you done in that skill set? So those are the crucial points that they will be analyzing or judging you. And if they get an idea like you are independent enough to do to work along with these the tools or the skill set or whatever you have developed from by doing a project, if you're independent and you can do all those kind of things, and if you have a strong foundation, then definitely they are going to consider you for an internship. Maybe in the current scenario it can be difficult to get a direct job placement, but I'm not saying that the chances are less. You have a very good chance, but maybe because of the situation, there can be a issue over there. But internship are something many of the companies are providing. You can just go to LinkedIn and search their career pages, or directly just Google the career pages of the required companies, and just get in there, get the job profile, get the job descriptions, go through it, and try to analyze your skill sets with the job description skill set mentioned. So these are the certain important things that you can do. But like at the end of the day, I would like to just sum up. One important thing is that doing a project, don't do it just for sake of getting a CGPA matters, I agree. But at the same time, do a project, deep dive into the project, get maximum skill set out of it. And these skill sets are something which you are going to include in your resume. And it is based on these skill set that the industry people or the HR people, they shortlist you. So project, it does matter. and don't stick around just for your curriculum, basis. Do your mini project, do your main project at the same time. Try to develop skills outside of it also, because that really works. That can also help you to get into a core field of your choice. So these are the things which I would like to share from my side. So if you guys have any questions, if you want to know more onto the industry aspects, you can feel free to ask me. That's it.
Guys, if you have any queries, please post it in the chat box or either unmute your mic.
Okay, personal experience on internship. Yes, so yeah, I had done my master's in Vellore Institute of Technology in VLSI design. So my internship, I got it from there into Intel. And yeah, internship experience, I would like to say, is like, just like you guys, I was having a resume where I could develop skills for my project. And as I mentioned before, it is just, the fundamental. These are the basic things that you get out of, once you graduate, you get all these basic elements. And once you get into, industry, and when I was in Intel, I would like to say that the things are really different. You won't be working on the same, even if it's a small, like, a coding language, but let it be C or Python or CPP, or let it be a basic tool, MATLAB. When you reach the industry side, you get to learn a lot more, advanced technologies, advanced tools, where, all the basics, or the fundamental things are of the same thing which you have done in your BTech. But you have to develop a bit more into the advanced side when you go to an internship side, or like internship in an industry. So people over there, just I guess Royce did mention about it, people over there, they do not, think, okay, I have few more questions around, so I'll just go through it again. I'll just finish this off, and then I'll go through the remaining questions. Yeah, so people in the industry, they will definitely not teach you things over there, okay, because they know you have done your basics and you are strong at your basics, and that's the only reason that you are sitting there, okay. So don't expect them to teach you everything from the scratch. Maybe you might have to, get into some new tool, or you might have to develop something else in a new coding language or something. So if it is entirely new for you, they would be giving you certain materials where you can, understand and develop your skills accordingly. But if certain things are, something which was already there in your resume, don't expect that from their side. Like, they'll teach everything from the start, but they can guide you properly. And they can, just within 2 or 3 months, if you actually prove that, you are independent enough to solve the things by yourself, or you have that skill of, what you say, the analytical or practical problem solving skill, if you have those kind of skills, then definitely they'll put you into the live project. And working in a live project, it is actually really good. But at the same time, you will be facing certain pressure, but that's fine. You get to learn more when you're in the live project. So that would be my internship experience in Intel. But trust me, like, it's really good. Like, you get to know more when it comes to a core field. You are, the things which you have gathered or learned in your bachelor's, and when you get to do the things, in the industry, whether it is a digital design or, verification side, it feels really good, and you will enjoy that. So yes, that would be my uh, experience. So I'll just go on to the other question. How can we choose a good topic by Sheetal? Okay. Yeah, so choosing a good topic, yeah. See, like, if it is based on your curriculum, See, I guess there would be different people from here, maybe from CS or EC mech background. I'm not sure. So yeah, uh, talking about your curriculum, just try to understand what are your field of interest, basically. Like, suppose if it is into the hardware side or into the software side, you have different opportunities. You have different varieties of things that you can think about. So I'll just give you an example when you're considering for EC students maybe. So if you're considering that for EC people, you'll be having design based field. Then you'll be having maybe automation kind of field. Then you'll be having your verification side of field. Then you can also have like doing FPGA based or some hardware based kind of skills also. So if you have an interest in one particular topic, try to search as many as good projects which are there in that particular field. Okay, and just read many IEEE papers as possible if you find out a topic of your choice. And once you read all those IEEE papers, you should give certain time for it. It's not that you can just do it within a day or within 2 days. It's not possible. You have to sit for it. You have to spend your time for it. Read the topics, read the IEEE papers which are there in it. And once get a proper knowledge on it, then you decide on the project which you want to work. And I guess our faculties are really friendly also in that case. Like if you're stuck somewhere and if you want to actually get clarity on certain topics and you try it by yourself, but still you are not getting a clarity, you can definitely approach our faculties. They are really friendly in that, I know. So they can also give you, certain ideas on what are the things which you have to concentrate. And also one more point I would like to mention is when you are searching a topic, just try to see, like you will be having your own ambition, like I want to get into this core field or this company, so and so company and all. So try to analyze what these people are doing or what the companies are also kind of what are the relevant topics that is going right now. So for example, AI and machine learning is something, it's taking a really high space nowadays. So if you want to do something based on that or something IoT based, so if these are the interests which you have, just read, understand the topic in detail, deep dive into it, and then you get a project out of it. And then if possible, try to include some novelties from your side. So these are the basic fundamental things which you can do while on the process of searching a good topic. So you can also refer the industry side somewhere. You can get an idea on what is happening in the industry, and then you can stick to your curriculum and see whether you can link all those things. If you can link, really good, go for it. Sit, read, get a proper analysis, and get a proper roadmap on whatever project you're doing. What are the skill set that you can develop from it? So these are the things, these are the tips which I could give you, Sheetal, on choosing a good topic. Any more questions? How hard is it to get a job through internship by Gino? Okay. See, trust me, it is not that hard if you focus your project, if you have a really strong skill set, because the only thing that matters is your CGPA, how strong is your project, and how much have you deep dived into it, and how much skill set have you developed. Because see, developing a skill set out of a project, it is not a theoretical concept, right? It is more like you are doing things practically. And on the way, when you're doing things practically, you come across many issues. You may have to debug many things, and you may have to learn something extra out of your curriculum. So these are the hardships that you're going to face when you're doing a particular project. So when you have gone through all these kind of hardships, definitely your resume is going to reflect that, and that will be reflected for the person who is going to shortlist your resume. So I have gone through the same thing, and that's why I can actually say that you don't have to worry about the current scenario or anything, because internship is something which you can actually get it, irrespective of, some of the people also have a misconception like you should be an IITian, you should be an NITian or something to get an internship into a core field. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. It's just that your skill set, how much you have developed from it, and try to do it by yourself, guys. Please don't make others do your project, because that is really not going to work. Try to do whatever it is, whatever hardships you are going to face. Definitely, you will, come up with solution. Or even if you're not able to get a clarity on it, our faculties are really helping at it. They will help. I'm very sure of it because I have experienced that. So you can just concentrate more onto your project, I would say, because that will reflect your true self. And that can give a message to the person who has been interviewing you. And if he gets interested in the project, then you can't say, you can just skip the remaining technical interview questions also, because he'll be more focused on the project. So it is not that hard to get a job through internship. And once you get an internship, getting converted, it depends on yourself, because you have to do things all by yourself. Maybe for a 1 month, they would give you a mentor or a buddy when it comes to industry, and he can, help you to brush up the basic skills, and he can guide you what are the industry, approach of, doing certain things, whether even if it is a small basic coding, or even if it is like handling a tool. How can you just not depend on your mentor? He can also train you in that, just not depending on the mentor, and directly you get the manuals, and how you can easily go through the manuals and try to sort the issue, or try to learn more about the tool. So these things are something which I got an experience when I joined in Intel. So my mentor was he was really helpful at it. He didn't start anything from the scratch, because the first dialogue which he said was like, you have done your basics, so you can't expect any of these things to I can't teach you any of those things. So he'll just give you the manuals, or maybe the he can guide you on how to sort these debugging sessions. So just if you follow those things, and if you keep working hard, and it's just required that you can be an average or above average person in the industry, you will get converted. It's not necessary that you have to be within that 6 month period, or within that 1 year period, you have done you have learned the tool 100%. It's not required. You just need the basics strong. Even when you're doing an internship, that grasping power of whatever your mentor or your buddy is teaching you, and the debugging skills if they are giving you with those things, and how you can handle things independently, not depending more onto your manager or mentor or buddy. Trying to do things all by yourself, maybe for first 2-3 months there can be a struggle, but after that, if you're able to do or able to pull off things by yourself, you will get converted, that is for sure. So you don't have to worry about it. Once you get an internship, just give your 100% on it. Try to follow what all the protocols which they are saying, and try to follow the methodology which they are sticking onto. And once you do that, definitely you will get it. So you don't have to worry about it. We have one more question. How much we are supposed to describe about projects in resume? Okay. Some say we have to describe the internal details of the project, and some say we should not expose much details. What should we do? Okay. So yeah, when you're including things on your resume, see, try to keep it crisp, brief, first of all, because when the HR is shortlisting, or when the manager, whoever of that particular team in that industry, whoever is shortlisting, the first thing that they'll check is not your CGPA, or the college, or all those things, or the internships which, or maybe like certain certifications which you have done. They won't check that. The skill set which that particular person has developed, and is the skill set a practical skill set, or just she has the theoretical knowledge on it. So that will be reflected on your project basically. So just give your proper project title, and just give a brief description. Brief description, as in it can be hardly 1 or 2 sentences. Please don't give more than that, because people won't be sitting there and reading things for you guys. They are also busy in their own work, right? So you can't expect them to sit and read. So it should be crisp. Your title, your project title should be crisp. Once the title is clear, they'll just read whatever description is given. So that description should actually, you should form a proper sentence which can actually deliver the message to them that this is the thing which you have done, or this is the core thing of the project which you have done. The main element of the project that should be represented, or that should be there in the 2 lines. So I would say that don't elaborate your project, because that would be something, when you are shortlisted for the interview, they'll ask. They will like to know more about the project. So at that time, you can explain. So maybe you can just stick around to a 2 or 3 sentence maximum. Don't go beyond that. You don't have to explain it, so much that when you are getting shortlisted for an interview, the person, he won't be feeling to ask anything, because you have given everything on the resume. So that is not needed. Just try to make it crisp, deliver the proper thing in the resume, hardly like 2 or maximum 3 sentences, not beyond that. And also, when you are including the project details, one more point I would like to say is, like, try to mention the tools which you have used in that project, using, so like, doing this using so and so tool. And or if you have used any coding language, try to mention that coding language also within those 3 sentences, because it would be, easier for them to judge you, like, okay, the skill set which this person has mentioned in the resume is not a theoretical thing. It is something which she has done. She has a hands-on over it. So just try to mention those things also when you're giving the internal details. And one more thing, should not expose much details. See, the projects which you're doing, or the projects which you're putting it on your resume, it would be your curriculum based, or some hackathon based, or provided if you are doing some industry based sponsored projects. There are people who, during their bachelor's itself, they might get projects from industry. They can, get sponsored industry based projects. So projects based on that, maybe that can be a tricky question, because you will not be allowed to, give a proper details, like, as in, even in that 2 or 3 sentences, you won't be allowed. You will be restricted actually by the industry. So but that's not an issue. You can just give a proper title to it, and just maybe on those cases just give 2 statements. But at the same time, make sure that, you're not exposing much details towards the industry side. This thing which I've mentioned is for the people, who are adding their project in the resume, the project which is basically industry sponsored. So just keep an eye on that. But other projects, it's fine. Just add 2 to 3 sentences, make it brief and crisp. Can we include the components too, like electronic modules used in project? Are we supposed to do that? Yes, you can use it. Otherwise, until, like, the other thing which I've mentioned, if it is an industry sponsored project, you need their consent to, you need to ask them whether you are allowed to use these kind of technical words, or whether you can keep the electronic modules name over here. And if they are granting the permission, please go forward. Else, if it is a project which you have done for your hackathon, or for your curriculum based, or, outside of it, whatever it is, you can include. That is not an issue. Those can be a really, it is a add-on for you guys if you do add these kind of things. You're welcome. So any more questions?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So I just have one question for you, that during these tough times, many companies aren't allowing students to do their final year projects in the company campuses like UST, VSSC, etc. So being in Essex now, we have been already asked to start the groundwork for our final year projects. Okay. So since the college campuses are not close to reopening in near time also, like, can you give us any guidance from your side on how to work on our final year projects in such a situation, based on your experience, something like that?
Okay. So can you just tell me what was the first thing that you mentioned with respect to the industry? Like, that was not clear for me.
I just mentioned that many companies weren't allowing students, since they were
Yeah.
already asking their employees also to work from home. They weren't allowing any interns or project interns also to work from the
Mhm.
to work in the company campuses.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Yeah, okay. So this is, one common issue that we all are facing nowadays because of this pandemic situation, and I really understand the pressure that you guys might be going through. But please don't worry about it. Even the campus is also, because of the situation, they can't open, and companies also, it is difficult for them to provide. A project station on the company because everywhere it's work from home right now. So I would suggest is like just try to focus on the project. Just try to go to LinkedIn profiles maybe, and you can connect with many industry people over there. You can ask them first, like, to get an idea of it. And the other thing which you can do is, with the available resources, because of the current scenario, it is really, like, it is self-explanatory, so that won't be an issue with the because of the current scenario. Just try to utilize the resources which you have right now, and try to bring out a good project out of it. That would be one possible thing. Because of the current scenario, you don't have any other choice, so that would be one thing which you can do. And the other thing is, just go through LinkedIn profiles, and just get contact, or just connect with industry based people over there. And professors, IIT professors, or you get many professors profile also, and try to just connect with them, try to discuss with them whether you are allowed to, whether you have a chance to get a project from their side. And if yes, if you're getting any project like that, you can move on with that also, if that is a topic related to your field of interest, or related to your field which you're doing your bachelor's. That is one thing which you can do. And yeah, because I really understand that the opportunities right now is really limited. The resources which you are given right now is really limited. And that is something that definitely the industry people, they can understand when you explain. So just make sure one thing, that whatever, even if it's a small project, or with the available resources, whatever you are doing, just deep dive into it, and try to develop the skill set out of it to the maximum. Because once you are getting shortlisted, you can give these explanations to them. When like, one more thing which I would like to say is, like, once I completed my internship in Intel, and after that I was facing job issues. Because generally, people who get an internship at Intel, they get converted. But last year, because of the pandemic situation, there was a global freeze in Intel, and we were not getting converted. Almost like 75 candidates from VIT were there, and we didn't get converted. So this was an issue. And the other thing which we all could do was, like, we were not having any access to our campuses, definitely, because you have graduated out, and you are not exposed to any industry things right now, because you have completed your internship. So at that time, people like us, we try to get courses online. You have many courses, Coursera based courses and all. So just try to get in courses, and get a theoretical knowledge, get a proper coaching over there. And then they can also give you hands-on projects based on online based. Like, it can be maybe a software, or maybe a tool based something, where you get an access to do these things. And so these are certain things which we were trying to do, because we all were scared of the career break that we would be going through. And once you get shortlisted for an interview, they'll definitely ask you, like, your project is so small, or like, there is a gap between these things. So that is something which you can explain to them. It is because of the current scenario, and they will really understand that issue. So that is not an issue, or you don't have to worry much about it. So try to get a maximum maximum output, or maximum efficiency from the resources which you have right now. Go through the LinkedIn profiles, try to get projects from that side, because that can also help you. And just for an example, I would also like to say that if you can check the career, like, not the career sites, you can go into the company's profile, not in LinkedIn. Just Google certain companies which you are looking at, and try to get an account over there. You can have student account also over there, and in the student account just try to explore whether you get the access for certain tools which are industry based tools. So maybe you have to pay, or maybe you can also get it otherwise also, because of the current situation. I guess Cadence and many other companies, some companies were actually providing these things, tool access for 30 days and all. So just try to see if you get these kind of things, and whether it can help you out to do a project with the help of those tools, because industry standard tools are definitely, you can use it and you can develop your project over there. So just try to I'm not sure whether it is available right now, but I guess some of the companies would be giving it. And just try to search these things also if possible. So that would be my explanation right now. Please don't be under pressure. It would be fine. You don't have to think much and worry about it. Just try to do your maximum with the available resources, because the current scenario is something that everyone can understand. Okay, we have one more question. Regarding the internship experience, how would you describe about the experience in your next interview? Because we cannot explain much things since it's a restricted information, or we are not supposed to explain much of the things. Okay. Yeah, so right after my internship, I had got a call from MediaTek, and over there, definitely, if you have done your internship, the first question will be Hari Krishnan Sharma. Thank you. Okay, you're welcome. So yeah, when you're coming on to the interview side, so after my completion of internship, and then when I got a call from MediaTek, the first thing that the person is going to ask is about your internship experience, because they are not looking, as Royce has mentioned, they are not looking for a candidate who has just 2-month internship or 1-month internship. They won't be looking that. So they'll be looking for at least a minimum of 6 months and a year or something. So if you have that internship experience, they'll be asking first about it. And in that perspective, people in the industry, they know that you won't be in a position to answer all the details that you have done in that particular industry or in that particular company. Okay, so they know all the restrictions. And please make a point that you don't explain all the important, all those confidential things if you have done in your internship. According to me, I was working in a live project, so it was really difficult for me to explain things. But make sure you don't explain the confidential stuffs to the interviewer, because that is like a violation. Then it is like gone. Then they'll be like, okay, you have exposed all the confidential details, which means that you won't be loyal to us also when you get into this company. And when later basis, when you jump up to another company, you will expose our things also. So please, the confidential things, it should be maintained as such. But you can give an overview, where you can, just before you did mention about certain electronic components which you are using, whether you are allowed to use these things. So you can avoid using those technical terms or the proper confidential module names which is given. Just you can avoid those things, and you can just give an overview to them. That would be the first question, and then they will be coming on to your project, the project which you have done in your masters or in your bachelor's, or what are the projects which you have done outside the curriculum, or whether you had a time gap of 1.5 months, so did you do something else over there. So at that time I was trying to build my skill over the scripting languages. So these are some things which was available in the open source compiler and all. It's available for scripting languages where you can do automation kind of things. So those were the things which I tried when I was having a break out of my internship. So they will be concentrating on those factors also, and they'll get an idea. So I guess I have given you the answer. That would be the internship experience and the interview experience after that. Then what would you do for reviewing or studying about internship experience, like a weekly basis or monthly basis? Like, should we maintain a review report or something? Okay, I'm not clear about the question. Did you just wanted to know about how the things I was studying when I was doing my internship, by maintaining a report or something? Is that something which you mentioned? Okay, fine. So yes, when you are entering into the industry side, into a company, you get different things to learn. always keep an eye over each and everything. Maybe it's not just a single thing you have to learn, you will be having multiple things to learn on the way. Okay, so for every, like on a weekly basis or on a daily basis, for me it was a daily basis actually, like by evening I had to send a report on what all things, because I was working in the live project, I had to do it. Otherwise, I guess for other people it was generally on a weekly basis, where they, you know, understand, they'll be given with certain manuals. But suppose if it is something, you know, a tool based thing which you're going to do, they'll be giving you a manual based on the tool. Suppose it is some coding based thing, they'll give you a manual on that. So what you have to do is try to analyze, try to understand. If it's a coding thing, syntax, don't sit and study the syntax, because when you're getting into the industry, the syntaxes are something which you can get it in Google. Just Google it and you'll get it. Don't by heart all those things. Just concentrate on the other logical elements which you have to work on. Okay, so the manual which is given, just try to analyze it in a logic way, in a practical way, and then just don't sit like that reading the things. Try to do something on hands, like, you know, you will be given with your own terminal, your own working xterm and all. So just try to, you know, do small programs which you can, you know, get out of the manual. By learning the manual, some things which, you know, pop up in your mind, or just Google it, what are the basic things that you can do with the help of these tools. Maybe some plot analysis, or maybe some, if it is something related to code, you can do, you know, just some automation, if you want to automate something with the help of Python. So just try to understand those things, try to do something rather than just sticking onto the manual and reading it, and then you're giving a report to the manager like, you know, I have read so and so manuals, I have got the details of so and so things, I could understand the syntaxes and all. That is not needed. They won't expect a person who has completed their bachelor's and, you know, who has got an internship in this company. They won't expect that from you. That is like really too childish, to be frank. So try to do something hands-on out of it. Whatever manuals you're getting, try to understand it, and by the end of the day, try to, you know, have a hands-on on it, and you can get a generate a report out of it, or maybe a plot out of it, and please do send it to your mentor or manager. So that would be something, you know, it can be an add-on for you guys to get absorbed. Ma'am is doing internship at a startup company better than a developed company. Oh yes, really, it is a big plus. Trust me. Like when you're going into a startup, things you over there, it is everything like from the scratch. So you get a lot more to learn when you're comparing into a developed company. Okay, with respect to a developed company, because when you're going into the developed company, things are all like already automated. So you will be working on the advanced level, to be frank. But when you're coming onto a startup, your basics, everything would be cleared. You'll be developing everything from the scratch, and your knowledge or your exposure in each and every field, whether it is on debugging issues, whether it is on analyzing things, whether it is like on, you know, practically thinking about the closures of things, or, you know, the logical element, everything will be more for people, you know, who are actually exposed to a startup company, because you get to learn a lot over there. And a developed company, I wouldn't say that, you know, you don't, better you go for a startup rather than a developed company. Both has its own pros and cons, but in terms of learning, in terms of developing your skills, please do consider startup companies also, because they are really good at it. And if you are interested on to developed companies, you can try that also. But there is a difference. In startup, your work pressure will be a bit more high, because you have to do everything from the scratch, and you have to learn, you have to build everything, and on the way you need to learn, you will be facing more hardships. But when it comes to a developed country, already things are automated over there. So it is like not on a manual basis. You can just do things directly, you know. Even if it's for a debugging session, there are certain tools which can help you for that also. So maybe over there, your skill set based on the tool, you are improving. But when you're comparing the analytical perspective or the logical things, maybe, you know, you'll get it more onto the startup company. So both are good. Both has its own pros and cons. Pros more maybe for both. So yeah. How can we connect with you professionally on LinkedIn? I'll drop, please I'll give my email ID. I'll share my email ID with the program coordinator or with Deepa ma'am. So you can contact me. You can just drop an email if you want any suggestions or any help from my side. I would be happy to help you guys. But how will we get to know about internship opportunities at a startup company? So I guess for a startup company also, you can, you find many startup companies, the LinkedIn profiles are also there over there, because I know some of my friends who have, right after their internship, they have joined into the startups of, IITs or maybe IISCs or some other startup companies also. So according to me, they got all these informations through LinkedIn or through their seniors in the college. So if you have an alumni group, you can contact the seniors, or maybe if you have a WhatsApp group over there, you can contact them, and you can just ask them whether you have an opportunity for internship in the startups over here, so they can also guide you. So I guess these are certain things which you can do it either through LinkedIn or by contacting your alumni and getting information about it. So yes, that would be the thing. Any more questions?
Thank you, ma'am, for the informative and wonderful session. Now, I would like to invite Adityan Chetan to take on the next session.
So hi all, hope you are able to see me as well as hear me. Please confirm.
Yes, Chetan.
Okay, I will share my screen. One second. So hi all, hope you are able to see my screens. Is it visible?
Yes.
Okay. So hello all, I'm humbled to spend my time with you all, whom I believe will drive the change in shaping our nations. First of all, thank you, the organizing committee, the Marbesides College of Engineering and Technology, as well as IEEE Signal Processing Society, for inviting me into the panel, along with the renowned speakers, Gayatri, as well as my childhood friend, Royce. Next 20 minutes, my purpose is to share my key learnings over the last 6 years, which made me stood up in front of the technological area, only through 3 publications, which I am having in my name. So without any delay, I'm jumping onto the topic. The future is all about data. As you all know, we are going through a very tough phase of COVID, in which there is a gradual switchover from face-to-face interactions to a virtual world. Before COVID, we used to share the thoughts as well as values to one-to-one interactions to many people or maybe many officials. But after COVID, we started to share only the data or maybe the informations which are really necessary. I'm currently studying a master's degree at University of Aberdeen, Scotland, for international human resource management. So from a HR perspective, consider a scenario. Let's say there's a job opening for a company called as XYZ where I'm working. So as a HR, I will just post a job. As soon as I post the job, I'll be getting hundreds of resumes within a day or within a day too. So once I get the resumes, the main responsibility of mine is to check all the resumes to sort out which one is good, which one is bad. For me, it is a very hectic task to find out which is good or which is bad. So the thing which I do is actually I figure out what are the key points they are mentioned at that point. So I can assure you that the 80% of the resumes will be having the same structure. starting off with, my name is this, I have graduated from this college, I have this much set of skills. But only the 20% will be showing, maybe highlighting their key experience of when the work experience they are having, or maybe the key experience or key sharings, or maybe the papers which they publish. They cannot copy that. So I can guarantee you that if you have a paper publication with you, the chances of selecting you for an interview was really, really high. At my last year of engineering, I started to figure out different master colleges or universities in and around the world. And once I graduated, I figured out 3 universities which I could apply for my master's. Those were Lund University, University of Waterloo, as well as ISF Paris. As soon as I applied, within a week, I'm very fortunate that I got admissions for the master degree from all the very colleges. And one more happy thing that happened, because University of Waterloo has offered me a scholarship of around 80% of the total tuition fee. And they have mentioned that only because you are having 3 research papers, this scholarship is valid. So my dear friends, it's always mandatory, or it's very, really, really important to have a research paper while you are graduate, because it can help you in getting an admission, or maybe it can help you in getting a job. So what is actually a research paper is all about? Research paper is just an expanded version of an essay that present your own interpretation, your evaluations, or your key arguments based on your research, or based on a research area, or based on a research topic which you would like to focus on. So what is a key element which we need to focus on while doing a research? The very basic thing you need to have is, you need to know what is the purpose of doing a research. So I'm going to do a research, so I need to know for what purpose I'm doing a research. So like my one research paper is all about enabling deep learning and IoT for disaster management purposes. So my purpose was actually providing a solution for disaster management. So if you identify that the purpose, you can start planning what all are the things which we need to focus on, what all are the things we need to look on while we are doing research, maybe which idea or which technology we can use it can be made using planning. Once you have done with the planning, the very next thing you will be getting is your idea. The idea you can do, the key idea you can share by doing the research. Once you have the planning as well as the idea, then the key next thing which we can focus on is strategy. Strategy is a key element in doing a research, because in strategy, it explains what methods or what are the tools which we need to use for doing the research, what are the areas we need to focus on, how should the data should be collected. So these are the things which we really, really need to focus on. So while starting off a research, there are different types of research you can start off with. So the very first one is actually called as a quantitative research. Quantitative research, as the name suggests, this research is all about data. You need to focus on different types of data depending on the research, and your key result or the end result, or maybe the end summary, should be the analytics of all the key data what you're having it. And as part of the result analysis, in your results, there has to have a graphs or maybe a table showing that your find out data is so valid, or so maybe can have a comparative study that my data is having much more higher efficiency than the previous studies. The next type of research, what you can do, is actually called as qualitative type of research. Qualitative type of research is a type of research. It is based on only the theories. You don't need data, or you do not need critical analysis of data or nothing. Qualitative type of research is a type of research which is only purely based on the theories and your theoretical findings. So as a college student, you can maybe focus on a qualitative theory research if you are lagging skills to do data analysis. The next type of data thing which we need to focus on is called as exploratory type of research. Explorative type of research, as the name suggests, is just like an exploration of ideas. This research is very useful for identifying what are the things which we can do, because this research did not need any conclusive evidences. And another advantage of exploratory research is that while doing the exploratory research, you should not need, or you should not do any proper, you should not know, or you should not provide any proper structure. Finally, finally, we move on to the next research that is called as theoretical research. Theoretical research is also referred to as a pure basic research, which is basically focusing on generating knowledge, regardless of its practical application. Here, the data collection is used to generate the key concept that can simplify the previous studies. And you can also do these theoretical questions to give a proper definitions to theoretical answers. So moving on to the next section, that is how to structure your research report. The very first thing you need to have is you need to know what is the abstract. Abstract is just the key claims of your research as well as the key arguments you put forward in the research. So while writing an abstract, you need to focus on 4 questions. The very first question which you need to focus on is, why did you do this research? Second one is, what did you do this? Third is, how did you do? And the final question is, what are your key findings? So these 4 questions has to be answered in your abstract. The next one is the introduction. Introduction basically means a brief description of your topic. So while writing an introduction, you have to be very keen, because it has to be a kick-ass interview, because every reader will be reading the introduction first. So it has to have clear-cut contents on what you are writing, what your expectations and all. So while writing an introduction, the 3 key statements has to be there. So there has to have statements on why this research topic is worth researching. The second is, what are the statements which can relate to the research objectives? Third, what are the research methods we are using for this research? The next section is actually the literature review. So before you start any type of research, you need to read previous year's papers, or maybe research related papers based on your topics which you're going to research on. So I would recommend you at least read 10 or 15 articles based on your research. Only then you will get the key understanding of what are the key things you need to focus on. So while writing your literature review, you need to summarize what are the key findings, what other researchers focused on, and you also should need to highlight what are the key agreements and the key disagreements, what other researchers state about this topic or maybe this research area. The very next one is actually the methodology. Methodology is used to justify the research methods and approaches you have taken for your study. And it is also used to explain and to justify the method of data collection and analysis. In methodology, you need to be focused on what are the data, you need to put it across, how your data is collected, from what repository you have taken it, so how your data is analyzed, and what is the quantity of amount of data is there has to be mentioned in that methodology. The very next one is actually the results and discussions. Result is simply just presenting your findings in an orderly manner as suggested in the abstract. Discussions just basically means it's showing your basic understandings of what your data suggests all about. Finally, conclusions. Conclusions basically means it needs to sum up all your key findings, and it has to highlight the main significance and outcomes of your research. And another thing you need to focus on conclusion is that you need to add what are the limitations what you face during this research and what are the key future elements which we can do by doing this research. So these are the contents which you need to focus on while writing your research. And finally, you need to add references. References is a very preliminary element in while doing a research, because References shows in what all areas you have researched in, what all papers you have researched in, what are internet sources you have looked at. So references has to be made. So if there is this much content, your structure of the paper is actually ready. So it's a question for everybody in the session. If anyone can open your mic, that would be fine, because these are two images. So anybody can share your views on these two images. If possible, please open your mics and speak. That would be fine. Any views on this images, two images on the left and the right side?
We aren't supposed to copy other projects, or the plagiarism is not allowed, like
Okay.
copying other projects as such.
Okay. What is your name? Yeah, what is your name? May I know your
My
name?
name is Sangeeta.
Yeah, great, Sangeeta.
Sangeeta.
Yeah, great, Sangeeta. Your point is right. The picture on the left depicts a paraphrasing. Paraphrasing just simply means copying the content of someone else, and writing in your own way, stating that it's my area and my suggestions. The picture on the right depicts that it means that like one guy's idea is copied by another guy and saying that it's my idea. That is called as plagiarism. So while writing a research paper, you need to be really focused on paraphrasing as well as plagiarism, because if a research paper is having plagiarism as well as paraphrasing, your research paper will not be published. It will be rejected. So I will show an example of what is plagiarism. In our college, we have a tool called Turnitin to show how to find out plagiarism. One second, this is not a file. Okay. So this is actually a plagiarism report of mine. Actually, it's actually my survey report. So you can see, if I copy from the contents from the internet, it will be highlighted that these are the contents which are copied from it. So you can see it will be highlighted in terms of percentage. So how much percentage you have copied your contents and all. So at the very bottom, you can see what is the similarity index of copying. So in this report, I have copied 15% of the content, of which 17% are from internet sources and 8% are from student papers. You can see and it clearly defines what is the percentage of your copying. Like for the very first one is actually 7%, the next one is 3%, then 1%. So please do not copy. Your paper has to be your own idea, your own thoughts. If you copy, I once again say your paper will be rejected. So be aware of it. So moving on to the very famous journals and publications which are readily available in our world. So these are the very highly rated journals such as Elsevier, Springer, Scopus. So my recommendation is, if you have a research paper and if you need to publish it, before publishing it, you have a talk with your mentor, or you have a talk with your lecturer or professor on which area or which publication which I need to publish on, because every teacher or maybe professor in a college will be having a very keen idea of what are the different types of research publications having. So they will help you in guiding which one will be best suited on you based on your research paper. So these are the key publications which I made in my college curriculum. So I will show one paper so that you will get an idea of how the paper will look like. So this is my research paper. So you need to start your research paper right by naming your research paper, what is exactly the paper says, and then you need to say who are the authors and the co-authors of the research. Then you need to describe the occupations of them, or maybe the address of them. Then you need to start with the abstract, stating all the claims as well as all the key arguments you made in the research paper. Then you need to write keywords. Keywords basically means the most promising, most repeated words you will be using in the field of research, or in the field of research paper you are writing in. So these are the couple of keywords which I have used, as well as which my co-authors use in this paper. Just after the abstract, you will start with an introduction. But in my paper, I have just clubbed the introduction as well as the literature together. So it's your decision whether you need to club your introduction as well as literature together or not. In this, I have clubbed both introduction as well as literature together. So this is an introduction. So while writing an introduction, be aware that you need to be very specific on what you're doing. If a reader reads your introduction, he or she needs to identify what your research is all about. So after that, your introduction, you need to describe your methodology or maybe the proposed system you're proposing in. So the best way you can propose your proposing system by using your flow charts like this, so that it will be ready easily for the readers to identify what are the workflow we are doing in type of researches. So in this paper is actually deals with a quantitative type research. So if you are doing a quantitative type research, it's really mandatory to have a quantitative analysis of the results. So here I have put the data evaluations of the quality. I have done a quantitative analysis of the results. So if it's a qualitative type research, it is not required. But if it is a quantitative type research, you're doing it, this data validations has to be there in your report, because it adds to your research criteria. Finally, moving on to the conclusions. In conclusions, you need to summarize every content or everything you have done in the research, as well as you need to identify what are the key limitations you have done, as well as your future proceedings if there is an opportunity to go forward. So back to my presentations. So I'm going to forward for the importance of publication. So very first thing is it's improvised scientific writing skills. Like I know the more you write, the more you read, the more you'll get improved. I know we are very expert in communication skills as well as in writing skills. But my dear friends, like writing a research paper is completely different from writing a letter or an essay. It has to follow some specific rules and context and protocols. So to get an idea of what has to be done, you need to go and read. You need to read a couple of research papers which are published, which are available readily or freely, so that if you read it, you'll get an idea of how to write and what are the key points which I need to highlight and all. You'll be getting that key ideas about it. The next one is experience of publication process. So paper publication is a very interesting task, but at the very same time, it is really hectic too. So if you are ready with the paper, the first thing you need to do is you need to find out which conference and which publications I need to present the paper. So after finding out which publication you need to proceed with it, you need to send your research paper to that conference or the publications. So once you have sent the paper to your publication, the publishers or the conference people will be reviewing your paper. So after reviewing, they will either accept it or maybe reject it. If they are accepting your research paper, they will get back you with an email stating that your paper has been accepted, but the thing is there are some feedbacks which has to be corrected. So that feedbacks has to be corrected by you, and you need to send a camera ready version to that conference again. So once you send it again the conference team will review your paper and give an application form to fill it up, and you need to pay around 5,000 20,000 rupees for your publication. So it really depends upon which type of publication you publish on it. So after paying the fees, the conference team will inform you the dates of the presentation. So on that day, you need to go there, whether it's in Bangalore, whether it's in India, maybe you are presenting outside India. So to the place you need to go, or else you can have a virtual presentation. So on that day, you need to present a technical presentation for around 15 to 20 minutes based on the guidelines provided by the conference team. So after the conference, or maybe after the presentation, your panel, maybe a 3-member panel or maybe a 5-member panel will be reviewing or maybe questioning your researches. So you need to answer it very correctly, because if you don't answer right, it will lose an opportunity for publishing your paper. The very next thing is actually connect with professors as well as researcher. So while writing a paper, you will definitely contact your teacher or faculties. So there will be a connection, or maybe they will have an interaction with teacher as well as professors. So again, they will also connect with other professors or teachers, so that you can have a talk or conversation with us, so that you can build a rapport with teachers and professors, so that once you graduate, they can also recommend you for a job opening. So that is a very good way to get connected with the professors by writing research papers. So the very next thing is actually display leadership and initiative. So if you are doing a project by a group of 4 members or doing a project by 6 members, You can write you will be able to identify the key leadership skills as well as key initiative skills which you can focus on, because if you're doing a project in group, there are a couple of areas where one need to focus and other need to focus. So you will identify what are the key initiatives that person has to do and other person has to do in clubbing or doing the process in a research paper going forward. So the key element what you do is that you will enable your leadership as well as initiative skills furthermore while doing in a project in a group or 4 or 5 or 6. Then last one is actually the future career path. As said in the beginning, if you have a research paper in hand with you, you will be picked out for an interview if there are the chances are already really high. And the other thing is, for doing a master studies, it is really important to have a paper. So if you have a paper in a feature curriculum, also it's really important to club up with them. So I would like to recommend, like, you are doing a beta curriculum in Vacha, and it's really difficult. If you think it's really difficult to write a paper, it's not at all difficult. You can write research papers at your time and at your own pace, because like I have written a research paper of 3 research papers. So it's really easy, and you need to focus on what you are researching on. So every day you can actually spend a little time on reading a research article so that you will get a clear-cut idea of what exactly can be done during the time of researching. So I'm done with it. I hope you have a couple of questions to be asked for the discussion. You can ask questions. Questions? Oh. Okay, I have a question. So I have heard that we need someone to review, guide, mentor for a research or any project. So if you do self-project, we can publish in a journal. Okay, Sanketa, yes, we can publish a journal, but the thing is, you need to have a mentor or a guide, because the guide or the mentor can help you in different ways, because you are a beginner, because you need to know what all the things has to be done. So you won't be knowing exactly the things which you need to focus on. So if you contact a mentor, he or she will be guiding you with the key elements which you need to focus on. So if there are corrections in the way of writing also, he or she can help you out. So it's always better to seek a mentor and write a research. So any more questions to be asked? So any more questions?
So Sankita here.
Yeah, tell me.
Sir, I have actually completed my studies, so I don't think I'll be able to get a mentor or a guide.
Sangeeta, if you are in Basilis, you are in Basilis, right? You have graduated from Basilis, hopefully, yeah?
No.
Okay. So as far as I'm concerned, that every faculties in our college is really helpful. So no worries, you can contact your staff coordinators or the staff advisor. So if you just contact himself, they'll be heading towards you to help you out. So no worries for that. I have a personal experience about it. So I've asked many teachers as well as professors for doing it. So even after my graduation, I'm writing a research on some more topics which I'm interested in. So even now also, I'm actually asking for guidance to college faculties. So they are really helping out this time also. So no worries for that. You will definitely get helpful from them.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. So any more questions? Yeah. Okay, how can I start doing my research? Oh, okay, Sheetal. Okay, very first thing you need to have is actually you need to know what area you need to research on. So first thing you need to know is you need to have a key idea of key purpose on what you think you need to research on. So if you're like, let's take an example of what I did. So I was looking for a solution for a disaster management purpose, because as see in 2018 we had flood. So I was looking for a solution for avoiding that condition. So from that cause, I came up with an idea of what to do. So the key thing you need to start before doing research is about, you need to have a clear-cut idea of what you do. So after that, the very next thing you need to do is actually dig on the previous literatures or previous papers which are available currently in the internet. So read the papers, get an idea about the different technology which has been used for that purpose. Then you start with the work. So that would be a very good idea to start with. Any more questions?
So just one more question.
Sure.
Suppose if you are doing 2 to 3 research papers, and if you are asked to say it on interview, should we refer the whole literature review to get a grasp of it?
Sorry, I didn't get you. Can you just repeat once again? Can you just elaborate?
I was saying that if suppose we have done 2 to 3 research papers,
Okay.
are we supposed to refer the full report of it, or just the paper, or just the conclusion of it? Like, how will we say it in interview?
Okay, if you are at an interview, if you are it's completely depends on you. So if an interview asks, so what is a research paper is all about, you can say like, my research paper was all about providing a solution for disaster management. So it's my example. So I will say like, my research paper was all about disaster management, and I used key technologies called as IoT as well as deep learning, and I have combined these two, and I come out with a solution for an earlier detection, so that number of people's life can be saved. For doing it, maybe I've used Python programming or artificial intelligence in Python. So that's it. We can just have a clean brief on it.
Okay. Okay, fine, sir.
Okay. Any more questions? Any other questions to be posed?
Any further queries?
Okay. So one more point to be conveyed is, as I highlighted in the beginning, what difference you make from the others, or how you define are the key things you need to focus on to be good. So I'm certainly that for the last 20 minutes sharing with me, you'll get a couple of points to research on it. So all the very best for that. Do researches, come out with great ideas, so that it will definitely help our society, and it will definitely help in shaping our organization going forward. Thank you.
I now invite Parvati for the vote of thanks.
Hope you all had a wonderful evening. It's my great privilege to be having given the chance to deliver the vote of thanks for the evening. On behalf of Signal Processing Society of IEEE MBCT and the entire team of organizers of the session, I would love to extend my deep sense of gratitude to our beloved alumni for sharing their thoughts and adding on to our knowledge. I would like to thank Ms. Gayatri Prateep for her session on importance of doing a good project, thereby lighting our path. Thank you, ma'am, for the interactive and informative session. Next, I would like to thank Mr. Royce Thomas for his talk on the importance of internships leading to placements. Thank you, sir, for your informative session. Now, I would like to thank Mr. Aditya Raj for an informative session on the importance of good project and guiding us through it. Thank you, sir, for the awesome session. I would also love to thank our Signal Processing Society's faculty in charge, Deepa ma'am, for her support and guidance in the event. I would love to extend my sincere thanks to our Vice Principal, Vishwanath Rao sir, and all the other faculties who graced the event with their presence. Last but not the least, I would like to thank each one of you for making this event a grand success through your active participation. Thank you and have a nice day.